he stole your seat? Because it's a really long document.
In the text box, I have a lot of text. Are you gonna get another round? I can do 10 rounds right now, but my voice is dying. Because I'm gonna do another one before we start, so I'm not like starving. Not the DMs. I don't know how we talk on DM. Oh, this is super. Your brother's okay, now.
6:40.
Forget to vote.
You got it.
The time is now 6:39 p.m. I call this meeting to order. I invite Councillor Macy Whiteside to the podium to deliver a land recognition.
Okay. Hello, is this a good volume? Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Macy. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge that my own reconciliation journey and our collective one at the university community is ongoing. As someone who has lived on this land for several years, I am deeply grateful for the opportunity to experience its natural beauty and resources. This land has provided me with a place to live, work, and be a part of a welcoming community, and I recognize that this is a privilege that comes from the stewardship and care of the indigenous peoples who have lived here for millennia. With this understanding, I'm committed to continuing to learn from the rich histories and diverse cultures of the indigenous communities in this region, and to carrying that learning forward with respect, humility, and accountability. With that in mind, we acknowledge that Western University is located on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Lenape, and Chinooktong nations, on lands connected with the London Township and Sombra Treaties of 1796, and the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Wampum. With this, we respect the long-standing relationships that Indigenous peoples have to this land, as they are the original caretakers. We acknowledge historical injustices that Indigenous peoples, First Nation, Métis, and Inuit endure in Canada, and we expect accept responsibility to contribute towards revealing and correcting miseducation, as well as renewing respectful relationships with Indigenous communities throughout our teaching, research, and community service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whiteside. Councillors, please head over to Echo 360 to log your attendance. Moving on to the approval of the agenda, our January meeting is 2 parts. In part 1 today, we'll start with the comments from myself, the executive reports, and then the board of directors report. Following that, we have 3 motions. The motion to approve the executive reports, the motion to approve amendments to the role of USC during labor dispute policy, and the motion to approve administrative amendments to the executive officer's salaries procedure. After that, we will adjourn until January 28th at 6:30 p.m. In part 2 on January 28th, we've got 2 elections, the election of delegates to the 2026 USA Spring General Assembly and the election of 1 councillor to the club's governance board hiring committee. For the USA Spring delegate election, all nominees will get the opportunity to deliver a 2-minute speech with no Q&A period. We will then send out a ballot for you to cast your votes. All nominees would have had to apply on the USC website prior. For the election of 1 councillor to the club's governance board hiring committee, I will give you an opportunity to self-nominate yourself by raising your placard. A speaking order will be created in alphabetical order of the names of the candidates. You will then get the opportunity to deliver a 2-minute speech with no Q&A. We will then send out a ballot for you to cast your vote. Following the elections, we have our first 4 information and first 4 discussion items of the year. Our 4 information item is the council composition procedure update reminder from President Henriquez. Our 4 discussion item is the motion to discuss providing USC Councillor 1-card stickers and recognition discount, moved by Councillor Sanyalu and seconded by Councillor Abedi. I will go over the rules of a 4 information item and a discussion item in the second part of the meeting. For those wondering, the reason we have a 2-part meeting this month is because the USA delegate elections were scheduled for January 28th, which would be the date of a second part of a January meeting. Can I get a mover to approve the agenda, please? Councillor Lovey. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Gandhi. Are there any questions regarding the approval of the agenda? Are there any amendments regarding the approval of the agenda? President Henriquez on Zoom.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm on Zoom today, but I will be back joining you for part 2 of this meeting. I'd like to make an amendment to add a discussion item regarding the London Transit Commission's 2026 service plan changes.
President Henriquez, is this time sensitive?
It is. We have a delegation to the LTC on Monday, and the draft plan came out an hour ago.
Where in today's agenda would you like this amendment?
We can put it at the end as a discussion item.
I approve. Can I get a mover for this amendment? Councillor Bose. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Thompson. Are there any questions regarding the amendment? Are there any amendments regarding the amendment? Are there any points of debate regarding the amendment? And are there any objections regarding the amendment? All in favor of President Henriquez's amendment, please raise your placard. The amendment passes unanimously. Back to the approval of the now amended agenda. Are there any more amendments regarding the approval of the agenda? Are there any points of debate regarding the approval of the agenda? Are there any objections? Please head over to Echo 360 to cast your vote. The motion passes. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. Can I get a mover to approve the November USC General Council meeting minutes? Councillor Wasti. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Johnny. Are there any questions regarding the approval of the minutes? Are there any amendments regarding the approval of the minutes? Are there any objections? Please head over to Echo 360 to cast your vote. The motion passes. Moving on to my comments, Isabel and I would like to thank everyone who attended the Winter Council Training Retreat a couple weeks ago. The retreat was designed to make Council feel understandable, accessible, and purposeful. My goal is to ensure everyone in the room has the knowledge and resources to be comfortable speaking up and participating. And now, this meeting, we have the first Councillor-driven agenda item of the year. Let's give a round of applause to Councillor Saniolo for being the first councillor to bring an agenda item to the council floor. If you couldn't make it to training and want to book a meeting with me to go over what we covered, please don't hesitate to reach out. As the election period begins, I wanted to share a brief reminder regarding campaigning in the USC spaces in line with the USC election policies. Campaigning is not permitted in USC spaces, including at council meetings, committee meetings, or within council chambers. This includes, but is not limited to, wearing campaign-related clothing or merchandise, displaying campaign materials, or actively discussing or promoting a campaign in any way during meetings. Individuals who are involved in a campaign are welcome to attend council meetings as members of the public and may sit in the gallery. However, any behavior that could reasonably be interpreted as campaigning may be considered a violation under the USC Electoral Code. Additionally, please be mindful when inviting members of the public to attend meetings. Seating is limited and subject to fire code and safety protocols, meaning that attendance does not guarantee a seat in the chamber. Thank you for your cooperation in helping maintain a fair, respectful, and accessible election process. If you have any questions or would like clarification on what is or not permitted, please feel free to reach out to me. A reminder that any questions, amendments, or debate in a council meeting should be directed to me rather than your fellow councilors. And finally, a reminder that this month's meeting is in 2 parts. After today, we will meet on January 28th at 6:30 p.m. for part 2 in this room. I invite President Henriquez to a virtual podium to present her executive report.
Why, thank you very much, Armand. Again, sorry I couldn't join you guys in person, but I am excited to see you next week. I know it's been a minute, so my highlights are actually from the break, I would say. So seeing my family during the break was really good. The 4 of us hadn't been together in quite some time, so that was really fun, and got to see some extended family as well. I found a new favorite yoga class. I go to a studio downtown. The class is at 6:30 on Wednesdays, though. So I couldn't go today, which was sad, but sad in general because it's a 6:30 a.m. class. And then finally, a lot of my January has been spent prepping for the Cove grand opening. So some of you might know that the soft open happened just at the tail end of last week. So you can go there now and get a bev and things like that. But the actual grand open is on the 28th. And I do have a drink there that I haven't named. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. And if it's your name, like I'll buy you a drink or something like that. In terms of updates, this is like I'm like deep in CEO season, deep corporate stuff, because the budgets are coming up. So most of my meetings have been about the corporate numbers and the executive numbers, getting the proposals in from the different divisions, putting them together, figuring out what the fee bill is going to look like. So lots of numbers. I think in my GNF standing committee, somebody called me like the anti-Ivy. I'm like deeply in it, actually. I'm actually very Ivy these days. So yeah, the next update has something to do with my Ask Me About, making the most of the rest of your year. So obviously we are all operating on, I think, like 4 months left in our term, something like that, which seems like half like a really long time and half like not that long of a time. But during that time, I will be working on the strategic plan. So something I campaigned on, and kind of like a cyclical activity for the USC is that every 4 years, the sitting president rewrites the strategic plan. We took a little bit of a different approach in 2021 due to COVID, and they introduced the frameworks as well. But now we're right back in the swing of things. So I am working on revising our strategic plan using some of the data that we've collected from the census and some of the student feedback we've gotten over the last couple of years, looking at data even from when I was a first year in 2021. And I would love to get some counselors involved. So if you would like to take a look at the strategic plan, I'm going to know some of you have asked me about it because you remembered it being in the platform. Please let me know. I'd love to get your kind of thoughts and feedback before we take any of the changes like public and show students and things like that. So feel free to shoot me a Slack, shoot me an Instagram DM. Someone messaged me on LinkedIn the other day, not a counselor, just a student, but I guess I'm reachable there too. And let me know if you'd like to take a look. And then in terms of upcoming, obviously I'm not here in person, but this is a very exciting, I know it's a 2-part meeting, but let's just say the January meeting is very exciting because at the next meeting, I get to introduce you to President 61, whoever they may be. I know it's a really exciting time on campus, but also a very stressful time for our candidates. But February's meeting will be really fun because I can introduce you to who's coming in next in May 2026. And then as well, one of the big points on the platform that you guys might recall is Take Back the Night. We've just started the planning on some of that stuff. And I am collaborating with the EA portfolio on Women in House this year because I'm a woman and I really like the house. And invites for that have gone out today. So I'm sure you'll hear more updates later in the slides. But yeah, happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions? Thank you, President Enriquez.
Thanks, Armand.
I invite Vice President Ejam to the podium to present her executive report.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful break. So my asking about is running and volleyball intramurals. So I got into running I think last semester near the end, and I've been really enjoying it. So please do talk to me about that. That's been really great. And then I also started volleyball intramurals. I actually saw Aiden there. I think it was literally on Sunday, this past Sunday. So I wanted to do volleyball, but as I graduated, I don't really know that many people here anymore. So I spontaneously decided to sign up as a free agent, and it was so much fun. We ended up winning both our sets. I don't know how, from not knowing each other before, we had really good communication, so it's been really fun. So I'm really excited for that for this semester and to get to know the team better, but that has been really fun. So top 3 highlights. The first one is the children's Christmas party. I don't want to take too much from Wade because I think he's going to talk more about this because it's under his portfolio. I'm just going to give some slight context so what I say about it makes sense, but it was a Christmas party where we volunteered with a foster organization. So foster children came and we got to play with the kids, and it was really nice. And I got matched with this 9-month-old baby, and it was literally the best day ever. It was so amazing. So it was really cute and sweet. And then 2, going back home and being with family. For those of you that know, I haven't been back home in a year. This is probably the longest I've been away from home. So that was really hard, but it was really, really good to go back. I took a little bit of vacation days to go a little bit longer back. My family's in Saudi Arabia, for those that don't know. And that was really nice to be with family and to just be in my home again. It's been a long time. So that was really great. And then best friend's wedding. This is the first of my high school friend group, which is just so insane. Of course, we're so happy for her, but I think just really insane milestone for her. So it was really great to be with her. She's not from Saudi, but she grew up there and she wanted to do her wedding there. So it was kind of a reunion. A lot of her friends that had moved away for good came back for the wedding. So it was just really wholesome and sweet, and literally flew out the next day to come back to Canada. So some updates. Letter to Future Me event in December. One of my coordinators, Cece, she's a student experience coordinator. She threw this initiative during exam season in the UCC, if any of you got the chance to see, and it was really great and successful. We ended up finishing all the stuff we had. It was kind of like a make your own wellness kit, and there was a bunch of different items, and we ended up running out of pretty much everything. So it was really great, and you got to write yourself a little note during the exam season, and then will be sent to you after the exam season. So it was really sweet and really cool initiative. Next was the Western Clifton Strengths Conference. For those of you that have heard about it, the Student Experience Office started this conference. This was the first year this year that they did it, and it was honestly a really, really great turnout. I think genuinely every room I was in, it was full of students, and it was really great to see the kind of diversity. Lots of first years, which I thought was really great to see that engagement from them, and I think they're planning to do it again in the future, and it was really great to be on the kind of advisory committee when they're kind of planning that out, so that was really cool. Teaching, learning, assessment, position, paper focus groups. Many of you probably have received an email. We are hopefully going to be doing focus groups as we are starting the position paper, writing the recommendations for it. So if you have not already responded, it'd be really great to get engagement from the counselors. I think it's a really great opportunity for you guys to get engaged in the process. And getting to especially focus on your faculties and getting those recommendations brought to the paper, I think is a really great opportunity to really bring your constituents' voices to that. But yeah, if you have any questions about that as well, please feel free to come in the recess if there is one, or even after this meeting, and come chat with me about it. I'd love to talk more about that if you have any questions. And then lastly, for updates, it's planning for Sexual Wellness Fair on February 12th. Please come out. This is also a collaboration with the Student Experience, and this happens yearly, so I'm really excited to collab with them again and get to be part of this annual event. So it's going to be really great. You should definitely come out. There's lots of great resources and a lot of fun interactive activities, as well as a lot of free prizes. So definitely do come out for that. And yeah, so upcoming Sexual Wellness Fair is happening on February 12th. And then Harm Reduction Fair is going to be happening again on March 11th. And this time it's going to be St. Patrick's themed. So it's going to be right before the St. Patrick's weekend. So it's going to be really fun. We're hoping to do a lot of the same activities we did in the September Harm Reduction Fair that happened before homecoming weekend. So hopefully we'll be doing the naloxone training again, and lots of fun prizes. So definitely do come out for that as well. That's it for my updates.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Oh.
Counselor Lovey?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a comment on the focus groups there. Obviously, this came up through UA, but just wanted to echo Jenna's points about just having counselor feedback on it. It would be really nice to have a wide head of feedback and wide head of priorities, particularly with kind of new technologies that have been developing in CTL and that kind of sphere, AI. But just want to echo the point of it'd be really nice to have council feedback on that, and especially coming from the UA perspective, it'd be really good to have. So thank you, Jenna.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Vice President Ejam.
Thank you.
I invite Vice President Saeed to the podium to present his executive report.
All right. So my Ask Me About is about replacing me. Obviously, at our next February council meeting is when Jenna and I will have our replacements be elected. So that's going to be super exciting. Sorry. And then some of my highlights from the past little bit. So just before the break, the Toronto Star reached out to USA for an interview about like course selection and wanted a student's perspective. Which is really exciting. So through the USA pipeline, I ended up taking that interview, and it was published on January 5th. It was really, really hard to find like a physical copy of the paper. I literally had to go to like 4 or 5 different stores, but Superstore has them if you ever need a physical Toronto Star. Number 2 highlight is, it hasn't happened yet, but I'm really excited about it, so I put it in highlights instead of upcoming, is Pathways in Politics. So that's going to be an event on January 31st. You should have all gotten an email this morning from Dane with the details for that. But it's a like kind of conference to introduce students to how to get careers in government and how to get elected positions. So that's super exciting. We're currently, talking to quite a few politicians and different staffers and alumni to be speakers at that conference. So we'll be releasing kind of more details about who's coming to speak, but we'd love to see some of you all there, and definitely give it to anybody that you think would be a good fit. Tickets are only $10 and you get 2 meals out of it plus some merch. So really good deal. The $10 really is just to make sure that you're actually going to come. So hope to see a bunch of you there. Also, last Friday, I attended the Ministry of Colleges, Universities, Research Excellence and Security, or MCURE's funding model review. So right now they're doing a review of the funding model for universities and colleges. That just means how much money they get from the government, how much money they get from students, and what that mix and formula looks like. Very like technical stuff with a lot of acronyms that I'm not going to spit out right now, but using USA's policy library, me and the USA president went down to Toronto last Friday to be part of that discussion, which is really great. Hope to see some student-friendly things come out of that review in the future. And then some other updates is wrote letters in support of the city's request to the province for a dedicated passenger rail corridor, hopefully a high-speed passenger rail corridor in southwestern Ontario, along with funding for the North West Rapid Transit line along Western Road. So this is, the city attended a conference called the Rural Ontario Municipalities Association. I didn't realize that London was considered a rural municipality, but apparently because some of London is rural, we get to go to that. So I thought it was kind of odd, but the city attended that, and they had some meetings with the Parliamentary Secretary of Transportation provincially and the Finance Minister. So these were kind of 2 of the requests that they had for that conference with those meetings, and we sent in letters. I also liaised with Western to have Western send in letters from them, so we had both the USC and Western send letters, so hopefully we'll see some movement on those files, but really great to see the city kind of finally asking the government for these priorities, and hopefully that higher order funding comes. I'll save the Bring Back the 10 letter writing campaign to the discussion later that y'all just approved. And then I wasn't sure whether this would happen part 1 or part 2, so I put this as an update, but I guess it's an upcoming, is the State of the City on January 28th. So the USC will be attending that. Basically, it's the mayor's kind of like annual speech, hosted by the Chamber of Commerce, and then there'll be a lot of other politicians and community leaders there. This will be a fun one because it's the mayor's last speech before the election at these things in November. So it'll be really interesting to see what he lays out as the priorities. This is kind of where we get to see the start of what he's going to campaign So it'll be a really interesting speech to watch. And then for USA, if you follow USA on its socials or have looked at its blog, you may have learned that we recently lost our executive director and manager of operations. They're both doing great. Like, it sounds like they died. I promise they didn't. One of them had some family issues and had to go back, and then the executive director got a new position with Okufa, which is USA but for the faculties, actually, like for the faculty associations. So great for her. Like, we're really happy for her, but it means we have to replace her. I'm on the hiring panel for both of those, but hopefully by the end of the month we'll have both hired. But that's taking up a lot of my time right now, just being on 2 hiring panels. But yeah. Upcoming is a housing rights fair. We don't have a date nailed down for this one yet, but it'll likely be in February or March. And then USA will do a campus visit on March 4th at part 2 of that council meeting. That'll be really fun because it's the day before the General Assembly, so USA will kind of take over this building for that weekend. Speaking of the General Assembly, in that email Dane sent this morning, you would have also gotten a link to apply for the General Assembly. I think it technically says it closes at 5 p.m., but it hasn't been closed yet. Do what you will with that information. So if you forgot to apply, the form's still open, and it probably won't be closed till tomorrow morning when Jeff gets in the office. So, yeah. And then Kat already talked about Women in House, but that's planned for the week of March 22nd, so keep an eye out for those applications. Yeah.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Vice President Saeed. I invite Vice President Welpley to the podium to present her executive report.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all are well. My Ask Me About is The Housemaid, the book. Over Christmas break or winter break, I spent a lot of time reading. I finished the book within like 2 days. I thought it was quite good. I have yet to see the movie. But yeah, I was impressed by the book. Some of my top 3 highlights are winter break. It was really lovely to go home, spend time with family. My family is really big on Christmas, so it was really nice to do some of those traditions. Get the house decorated, get a gingerbread house made, do stockings with the family, all of that jazz. As a second highlight, Christmas with my family. My family really likes to get together, kind of have dinner together. So it's a really wholesome moment, and I look forward to it every year. My cousins are often busy doing gosh knows what. So it's the one time we always are together. So it's really nice. I've also started to take pottery classes. So once a week, I head to pottery for 3 hours as a learning to test my patience and perfectionism. But it is super, super fun. It is wheel throwing. So those were the first 2 weeks, and now we're glazing and trimming. So if anybody wants to talk pottery, I have about 2 weeks of experience. But yeah, on to some updates. So après ski event with Dells happened on Saturday. It was a great success. So many people came out. Some familiar faces were there. Lots of fun. They did it last year. We brought it back this year. It was a great time, in my opinion. We met with the Queen's Student Union, Jeff and I, to talk through some of our programming aspects and how we accomplish it. So it was really, really cool to give them some insights and share kind of how we get our artist books, how we do our programming. And they had a couple questions for us, so that was really awesome. De-Stress Fest at Weldon, we had this a bit ago now, so during exam season, had some coffee, had some cookies, had some chats with students just at Weldon as a bit of a de-stressor before getting into exams, as well as therapy dogs that student experience put on. A nice collaborative event there. Application marking for General Softs is well underway, and as well as in-person interviews. I think over, I want to say 30 interviews have been conducted at this point, and they'll continue on to this weekend and throughout the next couple of weeks, and getting everything signed, sealed, and delivered for them with all their teams situated. We also did shuttles to Bowler Mountain, which was really fun. This was collaboration with Ski and Snowboard, so we provided shuttles at I think $10 or $5, I can't remember top of mind at this point, to get students to the mountain. And Ski and Snowboard every year do kind of like passes, so this is a collaborative event to really kind of harness what they do every year. Some upcoming events is still General Soft hiring, so that'll keep going. We have Purple Frost, which is happening, so NLE Choppa is coming, which has been super, super exciting. I'm proud to say that it's sold out. We had our early bird sell out within like 4 minutes of it opening, so that made me a very happy VPOP. Faculty day planning for our faculty soft teams is well under the way. So working with student experience of meeting with kind of the different faculty members and making sure that everybody is aligned on those visions. And then we have Throwback Soft Pub, which is happening on the 24th. So if anybody has been a part of the orientation program, please come. You can see the event on Bounce and RSVP. It's always a really fun time. Everybody wears some of the uniforms from the past years, and yeah, we celebrate each other. Cool. That's everything I have. Does anybody have any questions?
Are there any questions?
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Walpley. I invite Vice President Massey to the podium to present his executive report.
Hi, everyone. So my highlights from the past, it's got to be almost 2 months now. One, going home. It was nice to go home to Windsor, visit family. Everybody knows that Windsor is just a cultural mecca. Combination of Paris and Dubai. So it was really nice to get to go home. Next is the children's holiday party. Basically a similar thing to what Jenna said. It was just a really sweet event, and I'll talk more about that later. I was paired with a two-year-old who immediately started crying, but Jenna was great with the kids there, and it was just really sweet. And then Marty Supreme, kind of overhyped, but still a lot of fun. And then Ask Me About His Heated Rivalry. Little known fact about me, I played hockey for 9 years, and everybody watches that show for the hockey and no other reason. But for my updates, I've got Trans Day of Remembrance programming with Pride USC. We had hosted a booth for them, and they had done a event in conjunction with SOGS, and we're going to make it a more regular part and a larger part of our programming for future years because it's such an important issue. And then we had the Children's Holiday Party. The USC charity team hosted the annual Children's Holiday Party last December. We partnered with the Children's Aid Society, where they invite children and families within the foster care and adoption systems, basically just for a day of fun. This was the first year we hosted it in the Wave, and it went very smoothly. It was an amazing team of around 50 student volunteers. You had pictures with Santa, games, presents, pizza. It was just really sweet to give back to the community. And then shortly after our last council meeting in December, we launched a 15% discount with Intercity Bus that had broadly positive reception, but we're looking to hear from students about the experience they had, and if this is a kind of partnership we want to continue promoting into future years. So if you hear any comments, feel free to direct them my way or to transfer it at westernusc.ca. Next is Winter Clubs Week, which is happening right now in Mustang Lounge until Friday. We have, well, in my council report it says we have nearly 100 clubs participating, but that was submitted before we got to 140 clubs that are present, including many newly ratified clubs. So go check them out. They'll be there until Friday from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Another thing we've been working on is clarifying the USC's policy on outside food in our event spaces. So we've been conducting an internal review of the USC's policies and procedures about bringing outside food into our spaces. So things like the community room, Mustang Lounge, whatnot. We have a number of rules in place regulating this to ensure people in our spaces are safe and that we're following all Middlesex Health Unit requirements. However, these rules were not publicly available beforehand, so how can we expect people to follow them? But they're now posted directly in the club events form with the link to get in contact immediately with the USC's food and beverage team if there are any questions and requests for accommodations. We're hoping that smooths over future issues. Now, things upcoming. Last meeting, I talked about changes to the Student Refugee Fund and Grants Committee terms of reference. Policies, we don't have too many major updates because a lot of staff, both on the USC side and the Western side, are off around Christmas and obviously for the 2-week break that everybody receives. So not a ton of updates, but we will be moving forward with some updates to the Student Refugee Fund and the Grants Committee terms of reference, both at a future council meeting, so you might hear about that at another date. Another thing that's coming up is the Club Town Hall with Sod. So next Monday, Sod and I are hosting a Clubs Town Hall. Well, he's really hosting it. I'm just happy to be there. But that's where we're collecting more feedback from clubs about changes we've made to a number of our policies and to see if Winter Clubs Week went over well. Another thing is we're exploring new ways to provide care through My Virtual Doctor. Jenna and I have been in discussion with our virtual care provider dialogue regarding a program called the Student Assistance Plan. This would provide 24/7 on-demand counseling with mental health experts, as well as a professional sorry, I need to get better glasses. As providing professional counselors in the areas of nutrition, academic success, life skills, and legal affairs, and more. So I'll be conducting some consultations regarding interest in this program, as it would need to be implemented through a referendum next year to go into effect the following academic year. But some of those bricks we can lay early to make sure it's a success if students are interested. And another thing is the income tax clinic, not on there because we didn't confirm the dates yet before we had this submitted, but the income tax clinic, hiring for it opened last Monday, so encourage everybody to apply. We have lots of analyst positions, and we provide training, so no prior experience is necessary. The clinic will be open and helping students file their taxes from the 24th of February until the 27th of March, so there'll be lots upcoming. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions?
Awesome.
Thank you, Vice President Massey. I invite Vice President Ahmad to the podium to present his executive report.
How's it going, everybody? My asked me about, and it's unfortunate that none of the Ivy counselors are here today. Not that I can see, I don't have my glasses on, but it's how to calculate net present value. It's all I've been doing the last 2 weeks, so life isn't great for me right now if you can't tell, but we're making it through. Top 3 highlights. Over the break, I went to the Poconos, which is really nice, and I also checked out Princeton University, not because I want to go there, but my family chooses to live in really strange places, so Princeton, New Jersey is one of them. And got to visit the university. Honestly, it's so nice. It's huge. Every building looks like the nicest buildings you see at Western, so I've decided that in my future, law school is happening a couple of years from now, so we'll see how that goes. Second highlight, I was just scrolling through Uber Eats a few days ago, and I saw this new restaurant I've never seen before called Mandique's Kitchen. It's delicious. You guys gotta try it. They have really good African food. I don't know if it's actually new or not, but I had a great time eating there, so I've ordered Uber Eats from there like 3 times the last 2 weeks now, and I'm having a great time. Last highlight, and this is now updated after they scored a goal with 10 seconds left yesterday. The Montreal Canadiens are 28, 15, and 7. So my life is going very well watching hockey. So the Leafs suck if you like the Leafs, and that's all I have to say. Updates. So I've worked with our web development intern. We're completing a template for centralized page for all the student donation fund information for faculties over the next week and a half, I believe. And my hope is that once that's complete, I can send that over to all the different faculty councils to approve and make sure that at least the information that we have is correct. I realize I won't have all the information. However, I think it's important to even at least release an incomplete version and hope that we iteratively get more information as the website continues to grow in the future. As Wade mentioned, won't get too much into detail. Club Town Hall next week. If you're a club exec, show up. There's going to be food. There's going to be drinks. Me and Wade are there. What more could you need? It'll be a great time. And then the second thing, I'm planning on starting to host some club group roundtables. Essentially what that kind of means is I was speaking with WIXA about 2 weeks ago, who expressed that they have a lot of interest in working with and learning more from the different branch clubs of South Asian clubs. So I thought it'd be a really cool idea to actually start building roundtables of those clubs and meeting with them and giving them the opportunity to work together, while also figuring out what specific problems these groups deal with. So going to be starting that over the next few weeks as well, just collecting a bunch of club information and grouping those clubs first, and we'll get into that. So really excited. Also, my updates and upcoming are super messed up. Like, I thought we were doing this next week, so it's not in order, but we'll see. Event engagement. Yes, this refers to working closely with Reagan on both working with clubs for après-ski, which is really exciting. And then B, it's cool kind of see the feedback to concert loop. So earlier in the year, me and Reagan ran a survey with first-year students trying to figure out, in general, what the campus vibe was around music and what people are really looking for. And rap actually came away first, which is a huge part of how rap became chosen for the next concert with a guy like Annalie Chapa. So really awesome. I think as an executive team, we put a lot of effort on focusing on student feedback and making sure it's heard. So it's really cool to see all the different ways that gets used. Along with that, I've also been working with Omar on external engagement, which we will go into more detail later, as he mentioned, with some of the cool results we've gotten now from the LTC. USC Day did get completed a few days ago. It was wonderful. I was so proud to spread USC propaganda to every student on campus. And it's so easy to do that when you're giving out free food. Who doesn't want free parm fries? Absolutely wonderful, unreal experience. Couldn't ask for anything else. Then working with Ivy, of course, I'm repping them today, and it's as it should be. Essentially, we're kind of working with Ivy on 2 things. Firstly, I think something our senior manager of comms has always said to me is that it takes a student 10 times to see something to really stick to it, or like any person in general. So we're working on them kind of on two separate things. Firstly, we're working with them on actually writing a case in both 2257 and 1220 about either the spoke or the wave or just the USC operations in general, so that students, a huge group of students who are doing those cases, will actually get a better understanding of what the USC is, and also be able to work on a nonprofit case, which is something that Ivy is looking to do more as well. Second thing is hoping to host a case competition later this year. This one will likely be less collaboration with Ivy and more open, but I've been speaking with Ivy as well about figuring out how to engage their students, and I thought that it's important to meet them where they're at. So we're talking about perhaps including it in one of the Ivy courses called LTA and making it a yearly project that we do with Ivy, where essentially a bunch of HBA1s will be able to provide some ideas and solutions for the USC, and we'll have prizes, both money and also like networking opportunities, blah, blah, blah. A lot of cool stuff. Pretty excited about all that work. Hoping to increase engagement there. But if also your faculty has any ideas for engagement, more than happy to hear about it. So yeah. And then last thing is we're working pretty closely with the Western EDI and the Black Student Association to work on the Black Legacy Conference, which takes place January 30th, I want to say the Friday, right before Pathways in Politics. Really excited to see how that shapes up and all the work that we've now been doing going to the next stage and actually being put on. So super excited to see how that all turns out. Upcoming SOD vlogs are back soon, so keep an eye out on Western USC. Like, comment, share, repost, do it all. I know you're all my biggest fans, so I really appreciate it. Correspondence dinner. If you're a new counselor, you may not know what this is. Essentially, what this is we are going to have a dinner with it's going to be the counselors, the Gazette, and the exec, along with my portfolio, so my student engagement coordinators and AVP, who will have a big dinner at the Wave. It's pretty much like business casual. Very nice time. We decorate it really nice. We do a really nice, like, good dinner for everybody, really to celebrate both the Gazette and the counselors. But more importantly, there is a roast component. So I'm going for a maximum of 8 roasts this year. 2 of the slots are, around 2, maybe 3 slots are already taken by the exec. After that, I was hoping to have 2 or 3 counselors make some roasts. So if you're interested, I am taking applications. It is going to be a competitive process, so please do not be hurt if you do not get chosen, but please shoot me a DM in Slack. It's a very serious and formal application process, so I will be waiting for you all, because who wouldn't love to roast? And also expect to get roast by the Gazette. I don't know, I saw Finn here earlier. I don't know if he's still here, but it'll be really fun. We'll have a really good time, so that's going to be great. And last but not least, we're working closely with the Arts and Humanities Student Council on conducting a publications fair. So my AVP, Alyssa, is really collaborating with Chaha and the Arts Council on making that happen. We're hoping to see that happen. I think we're talking to Alyssa today, probably late February or mid-March, around between those times. Essentially, it's going to be a fair in the UCC atrium where all the different student publications can come out. Recognizing that not all publications are just art publications. If you have any in mind, please reach out to me as well. It was just kind of an idea that we're working closely with Arts Council on, as they have a lot of experience in that area. But yeah, thanks guys.
Are there any questions? Thank you, Vice President Ahmed. I invite Grace Wu, Chair of the Board of Directors, to the podium to present the Board of Directors report.
All right, thank you, Armand. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope you guys had a great winter break. I sure did, at least. The board, we were up to some things over the past month or so. I'll just go by committee. So starting off with HR, we finished and approved the Chief Operating Officer, so COO performance appraisal. So this was a collaboration effort between myself and Kat in November. And then in December, we finally got that approved by the board. No major findings. Jeff has consistently been outperforming in his role. He's so fantastic. No concerns at all with his performance. Another aspect with HR, this year's Board of Directors has put a lot of emphasis in director development, specifically with facilitating a more structured board transition between this year's outgoing directors and the incoming ones for next year. So we've done a lot of committee level goal setting over the past couple months, so that's been very exciting. From a governance perspective, we have amended our social media and spokesperson policy. So the changes were mainly to ensure that The media requests now mainly go through the senior manager of communications, just to maintain communication and professionalism standards there. There are also changes to the regulation of AI use in the context of production to ensure that it is aligned with the new AI draft policy, which is not finalized yet, so hard to speak on those things in detail. But overall, it's just to emphasize security and privacy related things to do with personal and corporational materials. And now with Finance Committee to wrap everything up, we have now received 3 installments from Western for our student fees, totaling now to roughly $21 million. And for cash, we have transferred out $9.3 million into our new investment tranches that we have set up. I believe I've talked about this in the previous council meeting. So now that brings our investments to a new total of $16 million, and our cash position continues to remain very healthy. As Kat, I believe, has talked about earlier, the fiscal 2027 budget timeline and process has been underway. The executives have been working very hard on that, preparing it for the next year. The board will be looking at the budget and approving that in either late February or early March. So look forward to that. That is all from me and the board. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Grace. Are there any questions? Thank you very much, Grace.
I think there.
Oh,
yeah.
My apologies. Counselor, I don't have my glasses on. Can you please say your name?
Guman?
Counselor Guman? Well, we need the mic so that the feed can catch it.
Okay, I was just wondering if you could repeat the investments.
What would you like to know specifically? Just like the amount?
Yeah, just another review of the amounts.
Yeah, so it's $16 million now. Previously, that has been at $5 million or $6 million, I forgot. And a new 9.3 in cash has been injected. This is not just like new cash that appeared out of nowhere. This has been sitting in our books for the past several years. It's just a matter of transitioning between accounts and now actually investing it so it can grow. Yeah, no problem. Hope that answered your question.
Counselor Wasti?
How often does how many does it take like a certain amount of years for it to get injected to investments? How does that process work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this new amount of cash, I know it's really large, but this has been something that Jeff, our COO, has championed in setting up new investment tranches. Again, it's not new cash, it's cash that's already been existing in the USC, but it's just a matter of transparency, especially internally, and breaking down the specific uses of cash. So there's one for student experience, one for like that covers like renovation, things like that. So it's coming out of the USC's like operating revenue, and we don't have to directly go to students and the fees that they're paying to fund these things. There's also things like our long-term investments, Purple Care, which is broken down into students and the staff plan, things like that. So it's not, sorry, to answer your question, it's not something that we're regularly doing to like add a whole bunch of cash. This is just something that's gone through approval by the board recently, so now we're taking action on it.
Are there any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you, Grace.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to motion for a 5-minute recess before we move into our 4 action items for today. Can I get a seconder? Counselor Lovey, are there any objections? The motion passes. This meeting is in recess at 7:30 p.m. We will meet again at 7:35 p.m.
Are you with me?
Counselors, please head back to your seats.
No, I didn't. Voting, right? We're not voting today?
This meeting comes back to order at 7:36 p.m. Our first motion is the motion to approve the executive reports. The motion reads, be it resolved that council accept the executive reports for January 2026. President Henriquez is the mover. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Kattenbodar. Are there any questions regarding the motion? Are there any amendments regarding the motion? Are there any points of debate regarding the motion? Are there any objections regarding the motion? Please head over to Echo 360 to vote. The motion passes. Our second motion is the motion to approve amendments to the role of USC during labor dispute policy. The motion reads, whereas the USC regularly reviews its policies and procedures to ensure clarity and consistency. Whereas the role of the USC in labor disputes policy requires minor administrative updates. Be it resolved that Council approve the proposed amendments to the role of USC during labor dispute policy as presented. President Henriquez is the mover. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Chow. Are there any questions regarding the motion? Are there any amendments regarding the motion? Are there any points of debate regarding the motion? Are there any objections? Please head over to Echo 360 to vote. The motion passes. Moving on to the motion to approve administrative amendments to the executive officer's salaries procedure. The motion reads, whereas the USC regularly reviews its policies and procedures to ensure clarity and consistency. Whereas the executive officer's salaries procedure requires minor administrative updates. Be it resolved that Council approve the administrative amendments to the executive officer's salaries procedure as presented. President Henriquez is the mover. Can I get a seconder, please? Councillor Lovey. Are there any questions regarding the motion? Are there any amendments regarding the motion? Are there any points of debate regarding the motion? Are there any objections? Please head over to Echo 360 to vote. The motion passes. Now, with the agenda amended to include the discussion item LTC Draft Service Plan for 2026, once President Henriquez has finished speaking, each counselor will get a maximum of 2 opportunities to ask questions. Counselors can ask a second question only once we have gone through our speaking order and everyone has had the chance to speak once. If everyone reaches their maximum amount of speaking rights, voting members on council can motion to extend the question period. If this passes, we'll restart the question period with the same rules. And a reminder to all, please refrain from asking multi-part questions. I invite President Henriquez to discuss the LTC Draft Service Plan for 2026.
Thanks, Armand, and thank you all for accepting this last-minute item. Obviously, it is time-sensitive in nature. The reason why we're discussing it today is obviously students through the Universal Bus Pass are one of the significant contributors to the LTC's guaranteed revenue, and as such should have a say in what's going on. So I will defer to Vice President Syed, who likes to talk about busing like no one I've ever met before.
Vice President Syed, I invite you to the podium. Vice President Syed, I invite you to my seat to scroll.
Hi, everyone. I'm the speaker now. I guess that makes me the speaker. I don't even know. Okay. So this is just a really long document, which is why I was hoping to scroll through it. But basically, before I get through the table, I wanted to show you the Cliff's Notes is that last year during the draft service plan, we didn't get like a ton of heads up or a bunch of involvement with consultations. The LTC made a decision to improve service for students by introducing the 127 and then decrease service for some other students in some other areas by rerouting Route 10. So it was kind of I don't know whether it was a net gain or a net loss, but either way, a lot of students lost service with the rerouting of Route 10. So we've been advocating ever since September for the LTC to review that change and with their upcoming service plan, which would affect next September, to either undo that change or to do it in a way that would, benefit students and make up for the loss that they gain. And if you're not familiar with, the routes I'm talking about, I don't expect you to be unless you rely on them. You can either look them up on the LTC website, but what you kind of need to know is that Route 10 used to go from the south end of London, starting around White Oaks to the Westmount area. It went up to Sarnia, up Wonderland, then went to Western's campus. The new change is that it no longer goes to Western's campus. It just goes up Wonderland and goes to the wall. So it skips Western now. That's the main change. The 127 basically just serves kind of that Costco area and Capulet Lane where a lot of those houses are, and goes to campus and just kind of goes back and forth. So that's what we got, and then what we lost is the south end service to campus, and then it would also continue up to Masonville. So we lost some Masonville service to campus. That's like the Coles Notes, I guess. Would be happy to chat more about it, but this is just to see if any of you have anything to say. So we submitted a letter writing campaign, kind of soft launched it in December, and more solidly launched it when we came back from the break. Had over 200 letters sent to the LTC commissioners and LTC staff as well, which is really great to see. For reference, their surveys only get like 500 respondents, so 200 letters is not bad at all. Thank you, Saad and his team did a lot of great work for that, and USC Day was huge. And out of that, we got them to actually kind of do a review of the different options to bring back Route 10. We did submit a recommendation, but the reality is, like, it's not all LTC's fault to blame. They'd love to probably provide all the service that they want in the world, but they are severely underfunded, especially when compared to other municipalities. So there's a lot of blame to go around. I'd blame the city, I'd blame the LTC for not being more careful, and honestly, some of the blame is probably on students for not being more vocal when these changes were being introduced last year. But this year we can kind of have an impact for that. So with that being said, this is kind of, right now, LTC staff recommendation is still not to do anything with the new Route 10, to still wait for another year and measure changes and kind of collect more data. They don't really like to make a change and then revert it or go back. So that's, like, if you read all the text in the link that I said, at the end of the day, they still don't recommend a change. But from all the feedback that we've heard and from speaking to counselors, we do think that it's feasible for like some minor correction to be done to this change. And they've laid out some possible plans that counselors can pick from. That at the end of the day, we'll probably endorse one and kind of bring it to the Monday meeting, or propose a new one, but realistically they can't vote on something that hasn't been planned out by the LTC. So this table, realistically for Monday's meeting, is probably what we'll get to pick from. So that's table 4 in the chart here. It's like a bit past halfway down the page if you're looking on the link. So this table 4 kind of proposes a couple solutions. I went through, again, this was released at like 5 p.m. today, so not a lot of notice to go through it. But I went through it right before this meeting, and in my mind, the most feasible options to be implemented for this September would be the options that do not require additional budget or additional buses, because it takes 16 months for them to order a new bus. So that's not going to happen before September. That's just how long it takes to build a bus. And the budget has already been set by council in the previous year. We got a couple hundred additional service hours, like 800, but that's not enough to make any major changes. And you can see kind of in this column here in the pros and cons, the cons usually will list out how many service hours each relevant change would cost. So after going through this whole really long document, as far as I can tell, I think the best option for us to endorse is having the Route 127, the new route, go down to Westmount and having it run less frequently. Right now, Route 127 has a 10-minute frequency at best and a 30-minute frequency at its worst. If we do 127 to Westmount with reduced frequency, it would come 17 minutes at its best and 60 minutes at its worst. So it would be slightly reduced frequency compared to what we have now, but along this same route, there's also currently Route 27. Now, I don't know how many of you have like heard from your students. This is like really dry stuff if you don't really use these routes or know about it, so I don't want to go into too much detail here. This is partly like an invitation for you to comment on it now, but we kind of have till Monday to make up our mind. But I just kind of wanted to talk to you folks since we have the opportunity before we kind of make a decision for Monday. While I'd love to have like a survey and be able to really fully engage students, they gave us 2 days, which is not really enough time for a more fulsome consultation. So I thought bringing it to you guys would be the next best thing. So I'd love to hear any comments, questions, feedback, if you've heard concerns from your friends. I will say the one thing I want to note is that extending Route 127 to Westmount would alleviate the concerns of students that have lost service from the south end of London to campus, and it would bring back a 1C ride for them. The other major group of students that were affected were students who lived in the Masonville area and lost 3 buses per hour from Masonville to Western. That is being alleviated through 2 other changes in this document. So they're increasing the frequency of the 93, so adding 1 bus per hour on the 93, and on the 90 as well. So that's 2 more buses from Masonville to campus already included in that change, which is why like I wouldn't recommend this option 2 of having 127 only go up to Masonville, and Westmount would be probably the more appropriate one to endorse, just because the group of students affected from Masonville is at least getting most of their service back. It would still slightly be worse, but with some of the other changes in this, it shouldn't be too much worse when you look at it all together. I hope that made sense. It's like a lot to try and distill, especially without any visuals or anything. I didn't have time to make any because they released this at 5. I would have loved to give you like maps and do a whole presentation, but I had an hour. But yeah, thoughts? Sounds good. I have to go there for your questions, but yeah.
If you have any questions, please raise your hand and keep them raised. To confirm, the only people with their hands raised are Councillor Bose, Councillor Turk, Councillor Sanyalu, and Councillor Gandhi. And Councillor Nadim's proxy. Is there anyone else who has a question? From alphabetical order, Councillor Bose, you may ask your question.
Thank you so much for the update, Vice President Syed. I wanted to ask if we have any data available to help us make this decision in terms of to what extent do we know with any degree of precision where students are actually living? Because like I just know from my personal experience, like I don't know that many students who live in South London. I know a lot of students who live along Sarnia. It's a really busy corridor. I know a lot of students who live in Masonville and sort of not necessarily South London, but like on streets off of Richmond. Like, is there any data that we have to kind of make this calculus with any sort of degree of precision that we can kind of weigh the impact of how many students are being affected with each of these route changes?
Yeah, unfortunately, like not really. Most of the data that we have for this is pretty imperfect. Western doesn't really give us data about like student addresses, and even if they could, most students put their permanent addresses, which would be their parents' addresses, so it wouldn't really be that useful to us. And in our previous censuses, we never asked like what ward people lived in or what area of London. We have added that to this year's census. So hopefully we'll have that data moving forward. But in the past, no, we don't really have any like detailed data of where students live. But for sure, like when we created our shuttle bus routes, and even when we did routing for Mustang On Demand and the Mustang Express before that, we did have some like kind of preliminary data and idea of where students live. You're absolutely right about most students being clustered around campus and in the area around campus, huge student population on Sarnia. But the like mostly we're going off of like partially the volume of complaints, and then also when we sent out this survey, it would be, we did launch a survey this year asking students what their impacts were, just like a general LTC survey at the start of the year, asking students about feedback and what they thought. We didn't receive any complaints about overcrowding, along Sarnia, but we did receive a high volume of complaints about the rewriting of Route 10, again, primarily from students living in the South End or living near Masonville, worried about overcrowding on routes from Masonville to here. The other kind of source of data that we could kind of rely on is data from the LTC about overcrowding and usage. It's not very useful or high quality because they don't know when people get off. They only know when people get on. And they only know whether a bus is overcrowded and can't serve people or isn't. And that's kind of like, it's very binary data. So unfortunately, the quality of LTC's data isn't very high, and they don't really like to give it to us. Like, I had to delegate at an LTC meeting and demand it just to even get that much. So it's not enough to like decisively know, which is why we've kind of tried to get some more of that data with the LTC survey and with future censuses. Hopefully, when we give you all the census in a month or two, you really push it and we're able to see that data more going forward. But unfortunately for now, we kind of have to go mostly off of complaints and the LTC survey we launched this year.
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Councillor Gandhi.
Hi, so thank you so much for your hard work on this. So my question was just about how responsive and cooperative like the LTC has been when they're consulting with the USC, and for future purposes, are there any steps that we're taking from now to make sure that if they are to make any changes in the future, the USC is consulted before they confirm them?
Yeah, great question. So in our, so to answer your first question, in the past, the LTC commission structure wasn't super responsive just because of the way it was made up. It only had 2 counselors on it, and then the rest were kind of appointed community members who didn't really answer to anyone. They weren't voted in or anything like that, so they weren't necessarily worried about re-election or making people happy, and they didn't really represent a certain geographic area. The city has identified issues with the LTC's management structure and is actually currently undergoing an audit of their management practices and of the leadership team. And as part of that audit, they replaced the LTC's entire board about this time last year, actually. So the whole LTC board was basically fired, and they rehired it completely made of counselors. So now city councilors sit on the LTC commission. It's 6 city councilors and the mayor that make up the LTC commission. With that new structure, we have noticed a lot more responsiveness to our concerns and a greater sense of like ability to kind of communicate with them and advocate to them, especially since we had pre-existing relationships with those councilors through our other municipal advocacy. And you know, they're people who are elected and get reelected and represent certain areas. So it was a lot easier to kind of bring our concerns to them and bring residents' concerns to them. So currently with this temporary structure that they have, we have seen a lot more responsiveness and more ability for them to work with us. And even, to be honest, them creating this list of options and giving us all these different kind of ways to solve it, even if the staff at the end of the day say don't do any of them, the fact that they went through and calculated it all is a really good sign. The fact that they came to Western for the service plan in the UCC and talked to students about it, which is also in that report, that's the first time that we've done it, that they've done that since we know. Yes, we had to ask for it, but this commission is more willing to do that. We're waiting to see what the structure of that commission is going to look like going forward. The review from that external auditor should be coming out very soon, and we are advocating to have a bigger student voice on that, either through a voting or non-voting seat on the new commission structure or some sort of advisory board. But yes, it's better than it has been, and hopefully it will be better in the future.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Councilors, please refrain from framing your questions as multiple questions or asking 2-part questions. We must keep question period impartial, so it's not fair to other councilors who ask 1 question in this round. So no compound questions, please. Councilor Nadim's proxy.
Hi, so first I want to say great job on the advocacy that you guys have been doing. So I take the bus 10, I'm from southwest London, and I've been very much affected by this change. Not too much a question, but just more of a comment. I do think this change will resolve a lot of the issues. Westmount Mall is a big hub for a lot of the buses that service West London. So by doing so, a lot of the people who are coming from the west, they'll be able to, if not take 3 buses, 2 buses to get to campus. Again, I think the best change that could happen is bring back the 10 in its full route. But I do think the change that we have right now is acceptable.
Yeah, totally. And just to kind of, I know that wasn't really a question, but just to add on to that, like if you look at this table, one of the options is to just revert the changes and bring back the 10. The reason that I don't think that would be the appropriate change, or even the change that the commission would go with, is because the new routing of Route 10 has actually seen a significant uptake in ridership, and it is serving an area that was previously underserved in London. So obviously they have to take other residents into account. They'd also have 5 buses that now are dedicated to 127 that they don't really have the time or data to plan what to do with until September. So it just feasibly, they wouldn't be able to kind of reallocate those buses until September. We definitely will like continue collecting feedback, keep that LTC survey open, and keep, you know, if this change goes through, we'll keep monitoring it to see if it was effective or if more work is needed in the future.
Councillor Sanyalu.
Hello, yeah, thank you so much for this report. I personally take the 127 almost every single day. I know many students live on that Sarnia Strip. However, I feel like there's a lot of buses that already cater to that area, like the 9, the 27, the 127, and the 31. And there have been times where I've been passed by the bus. I'm like, dang. But hearing that there's a whole region of students that just don't have access to the bus at all makes me feel that the proposition you proposed to send, like the 17-minute delay from 10 minutes, it's really not that big of an issue. So I think that's probably the best course of action to take. Yeah.
Awesome. Great to hear that from somebody who actually takes the 127 and 27 and relies on it. Obviously, this change will slightly decrease service for students relying on that route, but right now there's just a huge discrepancy in service between those two areas. Yes, more students live there, but it's trying to balance all the resources that we have. So happy to hear that.
Councillor Turk.
Yeah, so I take the 27 from Fanshawe College. Question 2 basically is because the 27 offers service both students and the London, do you think it would be feasible to increase?
Yeah, it's a good question. In short, no, because of how long that route is. So the longer the route, the more distance it covers, the longer its cycle is. And if you're trying to increase the service on a longer route cycle, it means you have to add more buses. The longer the route, the more expensive it is to increase the service, basically. So a short route like 127, which basically does a small loop, to extend that a little bit isn't a huge impact and wouldn't have a huge impact on the service schedule. But a longer route that's serving across the City of London, like the 27, or even like Route 10, adding even a small distance to that route would increase the overall cycle time pretty significantly and mean that you'd have to add more buses, which currently they don't have and would take 60 months to order. So currently, right, with the money that they've been allocated by the City of London and with the number of buses that they have, something like increasing the frequency of the 27 wouldn't be possible. I don't have it off the top of my head though, but if you send me an email, I can look at their 5-year plan. They basically have all the changes they want to make in the next 5 years laid out. And I'd imagine that the 27 is part of that 5-year plan because a lot of the service to Fanshawe is getting changed once they get bus rapid transit in the next 2 years or so. So I'd imagine it's laid out in their 5-year plan, but if you send me an email or just Google LTC 5-year plan, it's probably laid out in there. I just don't know off the top of my head.
Perfect, thank you.
Before we offer those who spoke a second opportunity to ask a question, is there any councillor who hasn't spoke that would like to ask a question? Please keep your placard raised. To confirm, I have Councillor Guman, Councillor Lovey, Councillor Wasti, and Councillor Abedi. Am I missing any councillor? Councillor Abedi.
Hey, I just had a question. You mentioned right at the end, you mentioned rapid fire transit. Could you explain deeper what that is?
Sorry, bus rapid transit. It's just the BRT network. So if you've gone downtown recently, you've probably seen along some of the roads, you've got the red lanes that are bus only lanes. So that's London's rapid transit network. It's basically dedicated bus lanes with longer length buses. They've been building out the south leg and the east leg for the past couple of years. It got passed about 5 years ago. Unfortunately, in that original thing, the north leg and the east leg got cut, or sorry, the west leg got cut. The north leg is what would serve Western and would actually hugely improve service for students. We're also advocating for that to be brought back. The city has approved a new north route and has committed to building it. But now it's just a question of getting the appropriate approvals and money from the government, which was that letter that I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. It was a letter to endorse the city's request for money to build that north route. So hopefully we'll see rapid transit to Western within my lifetime, but it's coming sooner or later, hopefully.
Councillor Guman.
Mine is more so a comment. I don't live on the route of the 127. I don't take the bus, but I know for a fact there are a lot of students that I do know that do. And they're having to take multiple transfers in order to make it to school, 3 to 4 transfers. And they do use the Westmount hub as the basis of where they are. So the 127 extending there would be great for that. I know for a fact there are a lot of buses in Sarnia. I used to live there, but I think genuinely rerouting it to include Westmount would be a great change and would help out a lot of students.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Lovey.
Hi, thank you. Just echoing those comments as well, as a London native who lives about a 5-minute walk from the West Mountain Hub, the service impacts there to and from Western were noticeable. So extending those out again would be deeply appreciated. I know quite a lot for domestic students, specifically speaking from King's perspective. A lot of King students are London natives and as such are hit disproportionately by these service impacts. So thank you for your work on that.
Of course, yeah, and appreciate all the feedback from Kings especially. We definitely had a lot of students from there ask us about this.
Councillor Wasti.
I was just wanted to ask if is maybe like, I know you mentioned like only the recommendations from the table, but maybe just suggest to LTC to kind of make sure that it's staggered, because I found like even taking, so I'll like take from main campus, I'll take 2 buses from Westmount, either the 27 or 127, and then stop along the way and then take the 10. But I also found like, I found that sometimes I'd get 27, 127, just like back to back, where it's like unnecessary and like the buses aren't even full.
Yeah, for sure. There's like the technical engineering term for what you're describing is bunching, which is a fun word. But yeah, that's exactly what happens when you have really high frequency routes and no dedicated lanes. If you have a bus coming every 10 minutes and a lot of stops along that street that it's coming, and another bus, the 27 and the 127 take the same route for that stretch on Sarnia, that bus also has a frequency of 20 to 30 minutes, so pretty high frequency for London. And no dedicated lanes, what's going to happen is that any delay or any stop, you're at a stop too long, someone needs to use the ramp to get off, anything like that, will affect the timing. So when they schedule them, they do schedule them to not be back to back, but literally when they're 5 to 10 minutes apart, any small delay will make them bunch and make them back to back. And then not only are you having back to back buses, but then you'll have a 20-minute gap in between instead of a 10-minute gap. So it's one of the reasons that we're very much leaning towards the recommendation of slightly decreasing the frequency of the 127, because the benefits of that increased frequency aren't really seen unless you have dedicated lanes. So yeah, definitely agree with you. And this change would reduce that bunching because it's slightly reducing the frequency. But yeah, we'll definitely make sure that in their scheduling, they take that into account. They do, but definitely making sure that that's, part of our ask. We can definitely do that.
Before we offer those who spoke a second opportunity to ask a question, is there any councillor who has yet to speak that would like to ask a question? Is there any councillor who has already spoken that would like to ask a second question? That concludes this discussion item.
Great, thank you everybody. And if you have any other comments or any students that are in your faculty that would have comments, please feel free to send me an email or a Slack message, but really appreciate it.
This meeting will resume on January 28th at 6:30 p.m. in this room. Councillor Betty, do you have a question? I motion to adjourn this meeting until January 28th at 6:30 p.m. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Thompson. Are there any objections? The time is now 8:10 p.m. This meeting is adjourned.